Welcome, everyone. We're going to start here in a couple minutes, but feel free while we're waiting to go ahead and let us know your name and your organization in the chat. We'll wait probably one more minute. Welcome, everyone. Trying to recognize some names and places here. Looks like we've got a wide representation. Glad to see everyone attending. All right, well, everyone kind of finishes letting us know where you're all from and your agency and organization. I'll go ahead and kick us off. So thanks so much for joining us today. Welcome to Forward's Built to Serve webinar series. So I'm Kelsey Martin, the Director of Client Services here at Forward. My background is in designing and delivering public programs. So everything from housing relief programs to small business support programs, even helping agencies move from kind of small pilots to large scale initiatives. I've worked directly with governments and nonprofits to ensure programs meet both community needs and funder requirements. So today's session is called Deliver Programs Faster and Fairer, How to Optimize Forms, Data, and Eligibility. So it's about tackling probably a challenge that you all know all too well, which is staff buried in paper forms and spreadsheets and manual reviews. So, clients have long waits, confusing processes, and barriers to access all the while. So, what we're going to cover today is I'm hopeful for you, very practical. I'll share some tools and real world examples that show how to design forms that are inclusive and accessible and easier to complete, to create a single source of truth for program data, how to use automated eligibility workflows to speed decisions and reduce errors, and then how to leverage live dashboards and reporting to build trust and accountability with funders and boards of directors. So today's goal is simple: to help you serve more people more equitably without adding to your team's workload. So one quick kind of housekeeping note before we dive in. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to drop them into the Q&A box at the bottom. We're going to turn off the chat, but that's where you can submit any sort of questions you may have, and we'll set aside time at the end to answer as many as we can. So also, before we dive in, let me give you a quick snapshot of Forward. So Forward is the trusted partner powering work behind community programs. So we help governments and nonprofits deliver services faster and more equitably and with less strain on staff. Our platform brings everything: applications, eligibility, payments, and reporting all into one secure system. So that means programs cut administrative burden by up to 50% while staying fully compliant, with HIPAA, SOC 2, and also having audit-ready reporting. The impact has been real too. To date, Forward has helped agencies and nonprofits serve more than 300,000 residents through programs ranging from cash assistance programs to housing support to workforce development. So at the end of the day, our mission at Forward is simple: to simplify program operations so you can maximize your community impact. So I want to kind of dive in and get really clear on the problem that at Forward we saw. Because you've worked in direct service programs, it's not the mission that slows us down, it's the systems. The reality is too many of us are juggling old paper forms and spreadsheets and disconnected tools. Staff are spending hours on admin instead of with client and advocacy. And at the same time, clients are running into barriers, whether it's language or literacy or simply trying to apply on a phone when the form was built maybe only for desktop. So I wanted to take a quick poll today to see to see kind of how you all think that your programs are slowed down by the most today. So there should be a pop-up. If you could submit an answer, we'd love to see kind of what things maybe make your lives the most difficult. Paper forms and manual intake, or retyping data across many systems, your own internal system and HMIS, or manual eligibility checks, reporting for the funders and the boards, or maybe a combination of all of these. Looks like retyping data across systems is a big burden, and on all of the above as well. So yeah, I have been there, retyping across my own internal system plus an HMIS system, or a local system plus an internal system. So that is definitely a big time suck for agencies. All right, go ahead and share the results. All right, so we walked through the challenges. Obviously, paperwork, disconnected systems, and barriers that keep too many people even from finishing an application to a program. But the good news is we can tackle a lot of these issues right at the very beginning, which is the application form. Forms really are the front door to the program. If that front door feels confusing or hard to access or unwelcoming, people turn away before they even get the help they need. If it's designated, though, with the user in mind, more people get through that door. And your staff really spend less time fixing errors or chasing missing information. So, as we build programs, here are the questions that we generally ask ourselves. Is this question written in plain language? Can someone complete it easily on a phone? Can we pre-fill information so applicants don't have to retype it if we've already gathered that information? Every really little design choice should make it easier for people to complete the process. First, we like to make sure that it's multilingual and culturally responsive. It's not enough really now to translate word for word. Communities need content that feels like it's written for them. Tacoma Park, Maryland, forward administered a program there, and we partnered with an Amharic speaking agency on a cash assistance program. So we adapted the tone and the outreach, not just the translation, to make sure we were building trust and easy to understand. Accessibility really isn't about compliance checks. It's about making sure everyone can apply, whether they use a screen reader or, maybe need larger fonts or have different literacy levels. And then finally, really mobile first by default. So 2 out of 3 low-income adults rely on smartphones as their primary device, and nearly a third have no other type of internet access. Mobile first really today isn't just convenient, but it's the difference between someone applying and someone being totally left out. Details matter. The US Department of Labor actually recommends things like checklists or drop downs instead of free text box, or showing numeric keypads when numbers are required. These seem like small tweaks, but they actually drastically cut down on frustration and application errors. When forms are multilingual, accessible, and mobile friendly, completion rates of these applications go up. Higher completion rates mean more eligibility, more eligible people can actually receive that support that they need. So I want to though move kind of from theory to practice. So here's a real world example from a workforce development council where one simple application connects clients to multiple programs all at once. Instead of asking people to fill out a different form for every single program, Forward allows you to collect information once and use it across multiple forms. One application captures a client's information, automatically matches them to several programs that they may qualify for. So job training or tuition assistance and or supportive services. So that means clients tell their story only once. And staff get a complete view of eligibility across programs in a single record. It's simpler for applicants, smarter for staff, faster access to the resources that people actually need. So we talked about, what it takes to design the forms that are multilingual, accessible, and mobile first. But what happens when we get it right? The impact is immediate for applicants and for staff. First, it's higher completion and higher trust. Clear, inclusive forms keep people engaged. One study showed that plain, well-structured forms reduced application abandonment and cut down on customer service calls and boosted those online completions. And then when an applicant trusts and understands each question, they finish the application and they trust the process more. Next, we see fewer mistakes and clarifications. With simple instructions and helpful, little error messages, applicants can fix typos or missing information themselves. And that means then your staff spend less time clarifying details or reentering data. And then finally, better equity. Accessibility directly expands reach. When people with disabilities or maybe limited English proficiency can apply without barriers, more of the community is served. A specific example of this actually was in Yakima County. We added a Spanish language access and outreach, and it increased the program participation by 45%. And that's really the power of inclusive design. We've talked about, how multilingual accessible design can increase trust and completion rates, but here's what that looks like in action in the Forward platform. On the screen, you'll see a client profile in English, but with just one click, the profile is actually translated in Spanish, making it easier for clients to apply in the language they're most comfortable with. And also, right from the platform, staff can send an SMS message directly to an applicant, whether maybe it's a confirmation or a reminder or request for additional documentation. So here's the really kind of cool key, though. Every message sent and received is automatically saved within the client profile. So that means your team has the complete communication history in one place for transparency, for accountability, and for easier follow-up. So again, this is the power of designing for equity, meeting people where they are in their language on their devices, while also making communication simple for staff. So, once the forms are all filled out, where does all that information actually go? So, too often the answer really, the reality is maybe 10 different spreadsheets. Intake in one file, eligibility in another, case notes, somewhere down the hall. Staff are spending hours retyping and reconciling instead of serving clients. That's really what the poll showed. So the fix is one secured centralized system. Enter data once and it flows everywhere it needs to go. Staff and leadership can see information in real time. No more silos or duplicative data entry. Think of the platform as a centralized intake system. One database for everything, applications, case notes, outcomes. It helps eliminate that duplicative data entry. Clients enter their information once, but then the records auto-populate across multiple programs. In that demo you saw earlier, a single application automatically filled out multiple program records, which saves time for both staff and clients. With integration, you create a single source of truth. Every intake, instead of intake in one system, emails in another, outcomes tracked somewhere else, everything lives in one place. So the result is easy to pull dashboards and reports, fewer errors, and more time for staff to spend with clients instead of on spreadsheets. The program dashboard really gives leaders a bird's eye view, tracking every program in one place. You can see application approvals, payments, and outcomes across departments, all updated in real time. At the same time, the application dashboard brings a client profile together. Each record shows the full picture: applications submitted, eligibility status, documents, and services provided. No more chasing spreadsheets or piecing together files from different systems. Everything you need is in one platform, making it easier for staff to work together, easier for leaders to make decisions, and easier for communities to get the support they deserve. Now let's look at how, now you've seen, the dashboards. I want to look at how bring all this program and applicant data into one place and look what that means in practice. This is a case study from the city of St. Louis, Missouri. They were running multiple programs at once in multiple different departments throughout the city. An emergency rental assistance to program, a guaranteed basic income pilot program, and Project R&R, which was a support and retention recruitment of employees. Again, these were across multiple departments, multiple different funding sources. But because all of these programs were actually managed through the Forward platform, applicants only had to tell their story once. Their information flowed across these programs, and staff could see a complete picture of each household. And here's the real impact. So 934 applicants who applied for the rental assistance program were actually able to also apply for the guaranteed basic income program. 548 from Project R&R were automatically connected to the GBI program as well. And 117 who applied to both rental assistance and Project R&R were also matched to GBI. And the result of all of that was this 37% increase in overall program participation on all three programs because they were all connected instead of siloed in their multiple departments. So this really is what smarter data tracking looks like in action, not just reducing staff workload, but also expanding access to more residents benefit from the resources available to them. So once your data is centralized, easy to track, the next big question is what do we actually do with that data? And fraud prevention around here. So the best way to stop fraud is to prevent it before it actually even happens. And with automation, programs can set clear rules and track compliance in real time. So red flags are caught at the very beginning and not months later in an audit, maybe after funding was already administered. A great example of this actually is in Harris County's business assistance program, Harris County, Texas. This was a conditional grant program where payments were tied to technical assistance hours that businesses received. Using the Forward platform, the county was able to track the technical assistance delivery. They were able to monitor compliance, and we administered payments all in one system. And as a result, the funds went exactly where they were supposed to go. And actually, the program recently closed with 0 audit findings. So that's really the power of building accountability and fraud prevention into the process from day one. Next, also, is reduced hours, stronger compliance. So automation ensures that every application is scored against the same criteria. And this type of consistency cuts down on biases and makes decisions fair. Because the rules are built into the system, compliance becomes automatic. Everything from document requirements to timelines is tracked with a full audit trail. And just to be clear, automation is not about, replacing staff. It's about shifting those repetitive, maybe time-consuming checks to technology. Staff are still very, very critical for, edge cases where human judgment or compassion or nuance matter most. But overall, automation does mean that every applicant is treated by the same set of fair rules. And then staff get to spend their time where it matters most, supporting people and not, pushing paper. But with Forward, eligibility checks happen automatically right inside the application process. So as a client fills out a form, built-in conditional logic guides them through the questions that apply to them. So this keeps applications shorter and easier and more accurate for the participants. And on the staff side, every application generates a customized eligibility checklist within that client profile. So the system will flag missing documents or verifies requirements and tracks what's still needed all in real time. So instead of sorting through the paper files or rechecking every detail, staff can instead review completed checklists at a glance and move cases along forward faster. So the result really is fewer errors, faster decisions, and more time for staff to focus on clients and not paperwork. So what happens when you take all those repetitive, eligibility checks off of staff's plates? The impact is huge. First, I think most importantly, staff burnout goes down. Case managers and intake teams aren't buried under stacks of files anymore. Instead of chasing mixing documents, they can spend their energy on the clients who really need their attention. Second, processing moves much quicker. Decisions that used to take maybe weeks can now be made in days or sometimes very same day. That means help gets to the community faster when people need it most. And third, decisions are consistent and fair. Every case is judged by the same set of rules automatically. And when policies change, like, HUD updates income thresholds yearly, you can update them once in the system and it applies across the board. So no one gets overlooked and staff doesn't waste time maybe interpreting rules differently. So really think about it this way. Automation doesn't just save time, it changes how staff experience their work. Instead of staring at spreadsheets, they can focus on talking with families, following up on tough cases, and continuing to build community trust. And clients feel the difference too. Faster answers, clearer communication, and a process that seems fair. So we've, talked about how automation reduces staff burnout and speeds up eligibility decisions, but the real value doesn't stop there. Once everything is centralized and automated, you unlock something just as powerful, which is visibility to your program. And that's where the dashboards come in. So think of dashboards, as your program's speedometer. Instead of waiting weeks for a static report, you can see exactly what's happening in real time right now. Want to know how many applications are in, or how many are pending, or maybe where the bottlenecks of an application are at? Real-time dashboards allow the data to allow you to show live data, so you can adjust maybe before the program's problems pile up. And then there's the reporting, which I know a lot of you indicated is a huge time suck. No more pulling all-nighters to prepare updates for funders or boards. With automated reporting, the system generates baseline numbers, milestones, and compliance data automatically, accurate and consistent and audit-ready data. And then here's really the best part that dashboards do. They build accountability and trust. When you can show the funders or the board or public exactly what's happening in a program, the trust in that program skyrockets. And audit trails mean you're not just saying what you've done, you can prove it with data. And for nonprofits, this is huge. Instead of scrambling at the end of maybe of a grant cycle, you can show impact instantly. We helped 314 families this quarter with just one click. And beyond compliance, strong data becomes your ticket to sustainable funding. When you can demonstrate outcomes early and consistently, you build credibility with the funders and position your organization for that long-term support. So dashboards don't just track impact, they help you secure the resources to keep that impact going. And here's what a forward dashboard looks like in action. Data updates in real time as applications come in. So, staff and leadership always have the most current view across programs and departments. Interactive maps show exactly where support is reaching in the community and highlight areas maybe where support is still unmet. And this makes it easy to adjust strategy or target resources where they'll have the most impact. And then when it comes to reporting, it's just as simple. Just a few clicks, you can export the exact data that the funders or boards require. And so no more late night pulling spreadsheets. With forward dashboards, you're not just tracking numbers, you're telling the story of your program's impact clearly and instantly. So, covered a lot. I want to pause here for a moment. We talked about forms and data, eligibility, dashboards, and you may already be thinking, hopefully, maybe how this applies to your own program. So I'd like to pause and open it up to the questions that maybe have come in. We'll take a couple minutes to answer them live. Let me just open them up here. Looks like we've got quite a few in there. Does the form filler have a save and return option for someone to leave unfinished form and return to complete at a later date time? Great question. And yes, it does. And so participants are able, maybe they're filling out a form bus ride home and they need to take a picture of a document that they know is at their house. They can save, and that section will they just need to log in and they can document time and all the info put in it, or it will still be question. Yes, we will end of the seminar. We have lots of support available in a variety of different languages. Spanish and English are the two that come out of box, but we're able to support many other languages. Let me see here. Does the Forward have the capability to integrate or work with HMS systems? Yes, we do. I talked briefly about the exporting capabilities, but that's really the big desire. And so we have really made that option capable to have exportable HMIS upload files available. Sorry, just trying to read through. Looks like there's a couple kind of audit trail and auditing. Our platform is able to house all applications and participants is the best way. Program audit requests that have come in, and the platform, because everything is saved within the platform, you're able to export data as needed. So either full participant client files in Excel form, or if there's a need for documentations to be exported, all of that is able to be, like I said, exported in a variety of different manners. Any data that's collected, even if it's application volume, not necessarily approved participants, but just application information, all of that is able to be exportable. That's, stands up to an audit. Let's see. Does Forward provide support in creating forms? Yes, we do. Forward is able to be purchased as a fully functioning product for agencies to utilize their own teams to create forms and to administer their own programs. Forward is also able to be purchased as for our team to support in all of those processes. So our team can build a form for you. We can actually fully administer a program on cities or counties or nonprofits' behalfs. And so we've done a variety of all of those options, and all of the staff here at Forward have the background in government agencies as well as nonprofits. And so we understand the requirements and the needs. This program appears to be for larger established nonprofits. Can small grassroots level nonprofits still utilize it? Yes. We've administered a variety of different programs, and Forward is utilized by a variety of different agencies. We have produced and administered extremely large scale programs, but we've also utilized the platform on very small scale as well. Small community colleges and nonprofits have used our systems, as well as large multi-state agency programs. Could this be used by multiple organizations so information can be shared? Yes, we've had multiple programs. Currently, we're even finishing one up in LA region where there's been 10 community-based organizations within the platform under one program. So yes, it can be used by multiple agencies. Our platform is able to be built as a role-based system, and so participants are able to apply to one program and then have on the back end administered and have visibility only to certain agencies based on roles. And so yes, it's able to be used across multiple agencies for one program. This is wonderful. How do we get state departments on board with this when they are married to old softwares? Great question. We will try and help support that. We agree. Health departments are on extremely old systems. A lot of governments are on extremely old systems, and this is a really a innovative and incredible way that our developers have worked to try and update some of these old processes. But we do know that cities, counties, states, nonprofits are still having to connect and integrate with these old systems. And so, I keep talking about HMIS, but that system is a system that a lot of us on this webinar have had to integrate with and still have to utilize for reporting purposes. So that's why the platform is great, because we understand those restrictions and those constraints. And we make it so that there's as little duplicative data entry as possible. How long does it take to customize, set up the platform, and how much staff support and training is available? It doesn't take long to set up these forms. These forms can be available, within a matter of minutes or hours, can be built and set up within the platform. Some of the more complicated or highly customized eligibility checks or whatever some of those more complicated ones might take more time. Again, Forward is available to help create those forms on agencies' behalfs. But, a rental assistance program or a guaranteed basic income program or maybe case management forms can be set up in a matter of minutes. Are we able to enter application client information manually only through an application form? Both. So clients can enter information, through an application to a program, or agencies can use this as a case management service to just, track participation across multiple programs where agencies are entering client information. So both are available options. Does this system have a calendar option? So this is a great way of ensuring that staff time is efficient. You're able to set reminders for automatic, notifications to go out to participants. If someone hasn't been contacted in 60 days, a notification can pop up to the caseworker that they need outreach because there hasn't been any action on that case in 30 days. And again, all of that can be configured and built into the system that you and your agency build or that Forward builds for your agency. So yes, there are reminders to ensure, again, staff time is utilized as most efficiently as possible, that they're not scrolling through case notes to try and remember when to ping a participant and get an update. There's a couple of questions about pricing. So again, we'd love to talk more with you all that are continually interested and want to maybe learn more. I think I'm going to pause because that's really kind of where most of the questions are returning to. And really thank everyone for joining the session today. We've talked obviously a lot about how forms make more inclusive and how centralized data, how automation can lighten staff workloads, and how dashboards can build trust and accountability. But really, the takeaway is simple. When programs are designed with people in mind, both staff and clients, we can deliver services faster and fairer with less strain on our teams. So if you'd like to explore how these ideas could work in your own programs, we'd love to keep the conversation going from today. So you can chat directly with one of our experts at Forward, or to walk through your challenges or see the platform in action and get tailored recommendations. So as we close, I want to encourage you to take the next step, whether it's maybe booking a strategy session or just starting a conversation with our team. Because together we can make program delivery not only easier, but more impactful for the communities that we serve. So thanks everyone for attending. We will send out the recording.